Welcome to Dependable Flame, where we explore vintage petrol lighters, ashtrays, tobacconana, and other useful mechanisms. Make yourself at home. Today we have a vintage Albert automatic super lighter made in Japan with a very cool faux snakeskin leather wrap. Very realistic looking, has variations to the pattern as well as the tone of the colors that are involved. Very nice old lighter that does have some flaws. Plating loss, scuffs, scratches, maybe some corrosion. You can see where there's fuel on my finger there, where I just fueled this lighter and it was leaking fuel out of the wick. It's one thing about these little gumball type lighters, they don't hold a lot, so it's very easy to overfill them, and they also sort of evaporate out pretty quick. Even with a solid fuel screw and the snuffer coming down, they don't seem to hold fuel like some of the bigger capacity automatic super lighters do. Maybe that's just my experience though. I'd love to hear from anybody who has had different experiences with these. Like I said, my experiences is usually they work pretty well, function. They're just going to dry out, evaporate pretty quick. So, it's still a worthy lighter to collect. A lot of collectors never really use the lighters that they're collecting in the first place. That thumb lever has a nice cross-hatched pattern. You can see there is a lanyard or some kind of attachment loop. Probably not a lanyard, it was probably a tassel. Most of these small Gumball or Petite type lighters had a cloth tassel on them. See some evidence there that the file wheel had flint degraded on it at one point. Typical Ronson type mechanism where the clutch spring is integrated into the top of the snuffer. And this lighter, it's a pretty good, I'd say it's a 80 to 90% as far as the ignition goes. There is some play with the flint spring that occasionally allows it to catch and it'll just whiff on you. And it's so small that you really need to have your hands on it or it'll fly right out of your hands if you run into any kind of impediment at all. The base is marked Albert Automatic Super Lighter, Japan. I believe it's chrome plating on the base of the lighter. Still appears to be mostly intact. There are definitely scuffs and dings to the mechanism and the plating up there. It is really easy to mar up the screws, especially on these smaller lighters. So I always try, if I can, to loosen them with my hand, to loosen them with my thumbnail or fingernail, and usually that'll work, unless you have one that's just been neglected for a long time. I'd say probably 75% of the time my nail will work. But when it doesn't, then I'm going to use a screwdriver, and a lot of times just trying to open one up or get a screw loose, my hands aren't that good, and I may end up causing a blemish on the lighter myself just trying to make it usable. But you got to make it useful before I can sell it. If not, then it's certainly not going to get its own video or be shown off or anything like that. It'll just be sold off in a lot for whoever is looking to buy a bunch of old lighters that I don't want to deal with anymore. But it's not the case here. This one is very functional. And as I said, you got to be very careful. It'll fly out of your hands if you were in a club or somewhere with a lighter like this. Maybe that's why they had tassels on them, so that you could keep a hold of it. Several times while I was making this video, or maybe even alternate takes of the videos that go into making this one, the lighter not only left my hand, but did so with velocity. This would be a very nice companion lighter, though, for someone who wears snakeskin boots, or I know being small, a lot of people are going to think lady lighter, and I know a lot of ladies like shoes, and a lot of those shoes are going to have animal leather type patterns, at least, even if they're not animal leather. You can see the typical Ronson type mechanism, and it's all been cleaned up. Got the original wick. It does show some wear, age, or contamination, but still seems to function just fine. I don't really think there are any tears or damage to the wrap. You will always, in the eBay listings, want to read those descriptions, though, because this is your video evidence and that's the written evidence over there. So I try to list everything possible that you could possibly see or perceive that would be wrong with it. A very nice one. I don't believe that it is in my future to begin a collection of petite or gumball type lighters, but if I was, this one would certainly be a candidate. And I think that it's a very interesting theme for somebody to pursue. It's a theme that you could pursue without spending a lot of money. And you would certainly, by the time you were done, and probably before you even got too far down the road, have all kinds of variety. Your lighters may be sitting on that shelf looking similar, but the themes which they highlight would be vast. Souvenirs, advertising, to just stylish accessories like this one. A very functional lighter, although it won't hold a lot of fuel. Until next time.